Thank you for checking this guide for Rogue Traders Idira. Idira is an unsanctioned psyker, so there's a higher risk of her triggering perils of the warp, which sometimes, well, most of the time result in consequences for your party and sometimes for the enemies. So when she uses a psychic power, she can cause accidents to happen. There are ways to reduce it, but also a lot of the most powerful items in the game for her actually want her to trigger psychic phenomena to buff up her Psy rating. So in that sense, she can get to higher Psy on average throughout the playthrough than Heinrich's, but it comes at a cost and at a risk. I will cover two builds for her. First, my preferred one, which is the Grand Strategist build for her, and then I will touch on Overseer. She starts out as a diviner and a telepath. Telepath does have many damaging and debuff abilities, and the diviner part is more for buffing. In tier 1, to scale her damage early and buff it up, one of the first things I do take is Pyromancy on her and Backdraft. This will greatly increase the damage she does when she uses her psychic powers. Here on this particular version of the build, we do have sensory deprivation. This is on the Grand Strategist version. Then we can immediately go for actually here for psychic assault should you want to. I took some other things. I took defensive things here, but you can go directly for psychic assault here as well if you want to delay these defensive powers a bit. How we play it is you can set up the different zones you want and start blasting enemies with her Psy powers. That's all there is to it. She has an ethereal visor, the Psyker's breastplate, a warp surge brooch, blood drinker staff, and this staff of mindsight. Here we have a star mist scarf or vortex pendant. Where's the vortex pendant? There it is. And commander's notes, which can be exchanged also for a bead of might if you want for more damage. The warp conductor gloves, arch strategist mantle, and Shuriken boots. The Shuriken boots are kind of interesting on her because it gives her the ability to use the onslaught ability every combat. And what that does, it gives her more movement points. And since she does attack often with the warp surge brooch, sometimes up to 5 to 6 times in the first round, and depletes her movement points after an attack, we want to refill the MP this way so she can reposition herself for another good AoE attack. You can easier target enemies that way before the rest of your party is like in the middle of combat, and then you never get the chance to really use this very nice devastating spell. In Grand Strategist, what we're actually interested in are Improvised Strategy to get free stratagems without taking them in our psychic power slots. Diversion zone is something I do take here on this build, so it after she's finished with her turn, she can put a rare area on herself or any squishies, so they wouldn't have priority from the enemies to be targeted. Adjustable front line, yeah. The others don't really matter, and very late I think I do take personal combat zone so allies can reposition the tactics area they're in case we get the blitz stratagem for extra movement. The other thing about her, as you see with these items and the way I leveled her up, her willpower is crazy high and perception is also crazy high at 100. This base 100 perception is really good for her and her operative class, because eventually you can take combat insight on operative. Perception bonus is 10, which equals 100 points. They get +1 action point and ignore enemies deflection. This goes well into her damage dealing capabilities. going first, and having the Warp Surge Brush equipped, so she can get off about 3 to 4 psychic assaults right on the first turn of combat. The powers we take on this build, as you see, Pyromancy, as I said, is pretty essential just to get Backdraft early. And I have the same thing on her Overseer build pretty early because I do like to lean in her damage dealing capabilities. And this talent having Backdraft this early is great on her. Later, Sensory Deprivation here as a debuff, pretty devastating debuff against boss targets and whatever the priority enemy is in the given combat. And here from Grand Strategist, you can already take Psychic Assault here as your first ability, but I went for this more defensive approach initially with Sanctic Powers and Shield of the Emperor, so we can get Shield of the Emperor online pretty quickly. By the way, she needs Sanctic Powers and Shield of the Emperor to trigger advice and guidance on everyone. Like, otherwise she would have to single target every person to give this buff, but with ability like Shield of the Emperor, after casting Sanctic Powers, it will auto-target everyone in the group, so that is very good on her. Psychic Assault, her main high-tier damage-dealing power that she gets, which can possibly just completely stun targets, and if it doesn't outright kill them. And then in Exemplar, because the best staff in the game is a Biomancy staff, we do take Biomancy on her, and Enfeeble, so she can also furtherly debuff enemies on the first turn. The best staff for Psychers in the game is the Blood Drinker, and it does require Biomancy. And then for the last ability, I took Joint Analysis here currently, but honestly, if I look at it, Joint Analysis is fine. It's basically more for your team because she does spread all these exploits as an operative on the first turn of combat, and then just using Joint Analysis to buff everyone's damage is not bad. Otherwise, I would say probably Combat Locust Stratagem is better. If I would respect her now, I would take Combat Locust Stratagem. I think it would be a bit more impactful at this point, especially with these Commander's Notes. If you're not taking either a Joint Analysis or Combat Locust Stratagem here as her last ability, something like Hammer of the Emperor to buff everyone's damage is also good. But this only will work on one hit. That's why I don't necessarily go for it, but it is a big damage buff potentially. And a last note about Psyker's Breastplate. I have it on her and I did give her the strength boosts to use it. What you can do is run her with a Psychic Body Glove or a Chaos Body Glove. Chaos is better for damage, and put the breastplate actually on Heinrichs or a Psyker should you be running a sanctioned Psyker. The reason is, as a Grand Strategist, she will still act first and trigger potentially several psychic phenomena in the first round, and whoever is wearing the breastplate, even if they are a Sanctic Psyker, will get the buff instead of her, should you want to boost their Psy rating instead of hers. Now, if you do go for running her as an Overseer with a Raven, the Raven can be equipped with, I think, Grave Chill is pretty good, or Synergy. For convenience, I usually just run Grave Chill on it. How she's kitted is a bit different, but actually pretty similar. I still have Ethereal Visor, Breastplate, Warp Surge Brush, the Blood Drinker, and Thought Guide here. And then Vortex Pendant, Mysterious Silver, Warp Conductor, Xenometer. Whenever the wearer inflicts burning on an enemy, plus 6 additional levels, for instance, here. and Caligia of St. Caliph to give her more AP on the first turn to get all the buffs off, basically. As I showed on the Heinrich's video, is pretty important for Overseer. The difference then is that she would delay some of her offenses for more buffing that you would prep for Overseer. So that means going Biomancy first here instead of Pyromancy, and taking some important Biomancer talents that buff the group. And then proceeding from here in Overseer with the Raven, we can finally take Pyromancy here in the first slot, because she can't, unlike Heinrich's, take Warp Speed right here immediately. We have to take it here. Other than that, it's again in the description if you want to run her this way. We do still take Pyromancy for Backdraft here to increase her damage. And then here Sensory Deprivation is still a good talent, although it's not as necessary. It's actually better just to pivot her like I did in the Heinrich's video to probably to be a Pyromancer buffer in a sense, with Orchestrate Flames and Inflame that way, and then maybe grab powers you might want like Prescience and the Sanctic Powers. I don't think you'll get as much use out of Psychic Assault this way on her Overseer version, just because by the time she'll get it off after doing all the buffs, she won't be really in position for it, and then the group will move, and then she can't really get it off cleanly without basically nuking your own party with it. So like, instead of Psychic Assault, which you would hardly use here, I would say go for something like Mind Bond instead. That way she can share her very high willpower with everyone in the group. And just to be clear, the retransmission means that this is a power that you can cast on the Raven, on her pet, and as long as everyone is in the circle of the Raven, they will all get that shared buff basically with one cast. Here I took Regeneration, it's up to you. I have the Colony Project where everyone's damage gets percentage-wise buff as long as they are healed per turn, and it starts to stack. It's kind of like a set and forget kind of thing. It's also nice to upkeep everyone's health this way. I would definitely take more fire powers on her Overseer build, like Orchestrate Flame, and possibly Inflame, like I did on Heinrich's build. As always, you can check the description of the video for the detailed leveling guides to smoothly progress throughout the game.